Ladies and gentlemen, bass players around the world, bass players in Detroit, bass players in Tennessee, bass players
in Uganda.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Welcome to the Bassmint. That's BASSMINT, and we have a special guest in the building, in the basement with us today. Tell us your name, sir.
Hello, sir. My name is Jeff Berlin, and I'm a fellow bassist.
Not only is his name Jeff Berlin, it's the master bassist Jeff Berlin, right here in the flesh, in the basement, man. We thank you for coming out and agreeing to this interview. But before we get to that, I'd like to introduce the panel of bassists that we have in here and other instruments, should that apply. So, tell us your name, Peter.
Peter from Uganda.
Peter from Uganda.
Yes.
Now he's a Detroit bass player. We did an interview with him. We'll be showing that in the year 2022. Tell us your name.
Bruce Shue from Washington Township.
Another bass player who been trying to get to the basement, never could, but all of a sudden, when Jeff comes, he's available. You got to come back. Let me get that interview, right?
All right.
Okay, so on my pluck hand side, we got a
pluck hand side.
Tell us your name, sir.
My name is Steve Burkhalter, and I live in Oak Park.
And he's also a Bassmint alumni, works with Bass Gear Magazine and all that good stuff. And tell us your name, sir, next to him.
Oh, Don Rex.
Don Rex, another Bassmint alumni that we still got to interview, even though we've interviewed him off-site. And tell us your name, sir.
Terrence Hamlet.
Terrence Hamlet, a former student or?
Still a student.
Still a student, like just on vacation.
Yeah.
Welcome to the basement again. And
Chris Snyder.
Chris Snyder, another Bassmint alumni. We did an interview with him. It's up now if you want to check it out. Next to him, tell us your name, sir.
Reginald Canty, you filming me? I'm filming you.
Reginald Canty, the owner of the Bassmint. As always, thank you for letting us use your basement, man.
No problem.
Great job. And then next to him, tell us your name.
Timothy Blackman.
Timothy Blackman, he's been in the basement, ain't gave me that interview yet. You owe me an interview, bruh.
I got you.
Because you've been doing some big things, bruh, so we got to talk about that. And then next to him, tell us your name.
I'm a drummer, so it don't count. No, my name's Breon.
Breon, a drummer, you first cousins, bruh.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and,
Welcome, guys. Welcome.
so forgive me for that, Jeff, but as always,
Nothing to apologize for. I'm happy to meet everybody. Thank you.
I have to introduce them because I thank them for coming out every time. I mean, yesterday, hey Jeff, you gonna be able to make it? Hey, let's do it Saturday. Today is Saturday. Friday, I put the event on Facebook saying,
Yeah.
Jeff's gonna be in the basement Saturday. I did that Friday, and all of them come to support. So, you know, I gotta acknowledge
Thanks,
all of
Terrence.
that. So, with that said.
Who's Terrence? Thanks, Terrence.
With that said, my first question that I always...
Timmy.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I was.
No, go ahead.
It takes me a minute to remember who's who. I remember names. Names are floating, so you will accept my apologies. So I'm a little bit. I remember Peter just because I was Peter from Uganda.
Yeah.
That's permanent. Don I met yesterday and it stuck because we were hanging a little bit. Terrence I just met. Tim. This gentleman's a drummer, but Breon. And you told me Steve?
Yeah.
Steve. Did I miss anybody?
Chris.
Reg, I know. Sorry, I'm doing this for me so I can call it. Tell me your name again?
Bruce.
Bruce. All right. So please forgive me if I do this.
Okay.
Call you Benny and Philly and Marty and
I've been
Harry.
called worse. I'll respond to Reggie though.
Okay. All right, we're on the air. Here we go. Sorry.
Okay, so look, my first question I always like to ask is,
Yes, sir.
when did you start playing the bass and why?
I started at 14 because I'm raised in Long Island and I come from a Jewish family. And Jewish families, when their children exhibit musical ability, are always put on a violin or a piano. It's just sort of a cultural thing with Jews. So I got the violin and I got very good at it, if I may say. I got to be a regional symphony violinist. I did recitals. I mean, kid stuff, but I was into the sophisticated literature, the sophisticated repertoire, because I practiced a lot. And then the Beatles came along. And I saw them on Ed Sullivan that night. Did anybody else see that?
I saw that too.
You saw that.
one?
That's right, because I think we're the oldest guys
The
here.
first one, yeah, I saw it.
I saw that. And I mean, it was interesting, but later the bug took hold and I remembered that the violin from low to high is G, D, A, E. The bass from low to high is E, A, D, G. And my thinking is that if I could play Mendelssohn on a violin, I could play on a bass. And even though it's tuned differently. So I got a bass basically out of laziness. I was so tired of all this classical studies, I said, this will be easy. Silly reason, but that's what I did. And then I got into it. And then I became a bass player. And then everything continued from that beginning.
Interesting story. That's why I love to see what drove a person to a bass or what drove the bass to that person. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't notice it as a sound initially because I'm a kid and I was so steeped in classical that it wasn't an audible thing except that Paul McCartney was my first sort of, listen to that and look at the four-string similarity with a violin. So that's why I went into it. But I gotta say, artistically, when I did, I found my instrument. I just did. To this second,
Okay, so the second question that I like to ask you, like I said, I ain't want to keep you. I don't have many questions for you, but I'm going to let these panelists ask questions from you. But my second question is, and I'm very serious about this.
Please.
Why did you decide to get so good on the bass? I mean, compared to the masses, I mean, all of us don't go through the lengths of being like awesome. I mean, we are awesome. I don't know if I'm saying away, but
I
just,
understand your
I mean, why it's so good to where you one of the virtuosos like Ralph, Stanley, Jeff? I mean, well, you are Jeff, but Ralph.
thought I was Ralph.
I mean, I'm just gonna throw a few names out from the '70s: Ralph, Stanley, Jocko, Alfonso, and I might be forgetting a couple of them. But Jeff and it's Victor. No, Victor ain't old enough. Victor Bailey. I'm going back. I'm talking about the '70s virtuosos, and I'm forgetting somebody. I'm forgetting somebody, but
Mon Johnson.
yeah, but that's different though. That's a Detroit bass player.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Ralph is too. So, why did you decide to take it up a notch? You know what I'm saying?
It's entirely a personal feeling about it. I was in New York and doing well. 1970s, I was in New York and doing the studio and playing and everything. And one day I just said, I gotta go to Boston, have to go to Boston and study with Charlie Benakis because there's a lot about music I don't know. So the only answer I have is that I was compelled to, which can be a little bit of a dangerous thing to say because it almost sounds a little superior, you know, I was compelled to. I don't mean it in that manner, but there were things that I seem to have, you know, we all have our DNA sort of inspired. Jocko became Jocko out of DNA, meaning his thing was simply a gift that he fortunately took good advantage of and learned and worked with. But that thing is unique and it came into that specific human form at that time. My particular DNA was there's things here I don't know and I want to know what they are. And that's what compelled me to do it, and I still do. I'm 66, and the other day I transcribed the first chorus of Giant Steps, not because it's a complicated tune, but because Michael Brecker was playing on it. And I learned how he you remember before you were talking about Sissy Strut and if it's in 4/4? Mm-hmm. Michael soloed on a 6/4 form over a 4/4 tune. Wow. And I didn't know that till after I'd written it out and saw how he went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And he did it on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And he did this because he had the same need to find things out because no one ever did it that way before. So I hope I'm not going a long way around the barn about this. It's a personal thing, whether I succeeded as a bass player or not. There's things here I wanted to know, and I still do.
Right.
I still do.
So, like, okay, now some people might be like, well, what the heck is Jeff doing in the basement? And
I was invited by nice people.
yeah. But, so what happened, folks, is he was in town last night, and of course, we knew about this for a while, right? Once the tickets went on sale, and then Reggie called. He's like, we got to get Jeff in the basement if he can make it, or at least go to the show and see if we can do some talking to him at the thingy. What I mean by thingy is the venue.
Can you come in? Yeah. This may be awkward, but you want to sit down?
Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot. That's what we use the floor for, sit down. Who else we got up there? Tell us your name.
Big Joe the Bass Shaker.
Okay.
Big Joe the Bass Shaker?
So Reggie said, hey, let's get it hold. I'm gonna find out who the management is, and I'm gonna find out who this is, and I'm gonna do all of that.
Yeah.
And I'm sniggling, and I reached out to you on Facebook. You're like, yeah, I'd be glad to do it.
Very cool.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I keep telling people with this social media stuff, you want to know something about these bass players that you look up to and stuff, reach out to them. They might contact you directly or respond.
Right.
One guy though, man, I don't want to seem stalkerish, but I ain't got a response back yet, man. I ain't gonna say his name until he comes to the basement. Okay. But so anyway, thank you for that, man, for
My
taking
pleasure.
and I have to say the show last night was phenomenal. A few of us were there. Steve, you were there, right?
Yep.
And Don, you were there, right?
Oh yeah.
And I was there, and Reggie was there. Anybody else made it to this? Oh, Breon, yeah, I saw you. Breon
Gotta come for
came.
Dennis, right?
But I know about you too. Yeah. I know.
He came to see Dennis, and Dennis Chambers, by the way, legendary drummer. And when I heard him play last night, it reminded me of when he did his solos. It reminded me of the finale of the fireworks that cities do. You know, when they do it, you know, they do the then they had an awesome finale, right?
Yep.
And his solos was a finale throughout the whole thing. I mean, he did some subtle stuff, but when I'm like, And then when he started playing off time with you guys, I was like, how long can they hold? How long can they hold two different tempos like that? But
About a bar and a half.
so I wanted to do that, and like I said, I'm almost finished with my questions. I got two more. Two more. My next one, I'm very curious about.
Yeah.
Who, I don't know if the word favorites or inspired basses, but who inspired you on bass, or who are some of your favorite? If you can intermingle them, even if it's not the bassist and it's a group of sorts, or
Sure.
like my grandmother used to say, a combo, even. Just
Combo. My father said that word too.
yeah.
In a combo.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how's your little combo doing? So yeah, give me the inspirations, favorites.
My bass inspirations are very limited because I admired bass players, but I wasn't influenced by them. Jack Bruce is first and foremost the alpha and the omega for me. He is simply the guy that put me on the path I'm on, Jack Bruce. And when I heard those Cream records, Reg, you remember those?
Yeah.
Remember those Cream albums and Wheels of Fire and Goodbye and a couple of the live Cream that followed it? These guys were made for each other, that group Cream. And it was a playing group. And I'm a player from violin days and then got into bass, so I got into playing. So Jack was probably the seminal bassist of the 1960s in that regard. He was an improvising guy, and he did things that was simply, there would be an E chord, and he would play an F. I never heard that before. Today it's fairly common in that sort of, use in jazz or fusion. But Jack opened my head up like nobody else ever did, and we became friends. And I'll tell you a funny Jack story. He used to try to mess with me on gigs. Remind me about that. I don't want to go on about that now. But, and then of course McCartney in that time. And then I got Stanley Clarke was the next, I would say, big influence. I knew Larry Graham and knew what he did, but it didn't get into me. At that time. I was just into kind of rock and that thing. And Sly's band was really a soul band. It really was. And that thing didn't click with me right away. So Stanley did. And then afterward, when Jocko came out, it was so overwhelming. And I was already in that time. So I was already doing these things. So even today, that we came similarly from a kind of a notey background. And he was important, but I stopped listening to him because I have a good ear. When you guys play, I'll play it back, and I can hear and remember stuff. I don't have perfect retention, but I can do that. So I stopped listening to Jocko. And then after that, the usual crew. When I got into Motown, there's a tune, when's that, Evening Train by Diana Ross? And Jamerson played. And I just went, my God, man. And then I found out Anthony Jackson went wild for that song too. What time's the Evening Train around? Anyone know this song? It's an old Diana Ross song. Oh my goodness, go look that up. When's the Evening Train? Diana Ross, and check out the bass. Maybe the greatest Motown bass part ever played.
Wow.
Again, this is just an opinion, as we were talking about opinions. But I hear it to this day. I'll put it on sometimes and I'll go, what imbued this bass player to come up with this? So there you go. And then afterward, all the bass players I listened to, I admired, I noticed their playing and noticed how great they are, but I can't say I was influenced by them. I was more influenced by pianists, guitarists, pianists, guitarists, sax players for the most part, because I did tons of transcription. That was the need to know. There's a cannonball. I haven't played it in years. Should I play this?
Yeah.
Or no? Alright. This is a Cannonball Adderley, a sax solo. It's been some years, let me think. And I can go on, I'm kind of forgetting it, but this is all over this. And that's the guy, sorry if I'm going on too long, but I can't quite remember that. I like to relearn it and play it. And these are the guys that influenced me because we bass players never did that.
Right, yeah. That's that Jocko was one of the ones that said, hey, we can actually do this too on the bass.
Correct.
So look, my last question. I got 2 fingers up, but I'm gonna contain myself. I just got one more question. So these other guys, if they might have some awesome stuff to ask you or share or whatever the case may be. What kind of bass is that?
This is a Quart. Quart Basses is a Korean company that for a while has not made inroads in America. I know you all maybe have heard the name, but it isn't, let's say, the bass of choice that a lot of us might use.
I have a few.
And when I got with them, I said, look, I'm wound a little bit strangely. If people play active basses, I won't. If people play a Fender, I prefer not to. At this juncture, I mean, it could change. Certain companies, that are popular, I don't go there. If you play a 5-string, I won't. You play Reggie turned off the here's Mark basses, but they have tweeters. I don't play with tweeters. So I notice that if I eliminate things that are common in sound, you might find something uncommon in your playing. So when I went to Quart, they made for me, you guys can play it afterward, I think the best sounding and best playing passive 4-string bass since the 1962 Fender Jazz bass.
Wow, that's saying something.
I genuinely
That's really
think so.
saying something.
I mean, there was no sound check. You heard. I mean, the tone. You go into a studio, you go in and dial in the neutral sound of this. It's called a rhythmic. Is so phenomenal that any kind of alteration to your particular tastes and bass tone can take place. I mean, you can get that sound if you want it.
Right.
I've never quite subscribed to the notion that you must have an active bass to get a good crisp slap. That's me again. That's totally me. But in fact, by denying ourselves the common sound, it occurred to me we'd come up with something slightly uncommon. And not necessarily a detriment when you're playing with a drummer. Tell me your name again?
Breon.
Breon.
Yep.
So like if we're playing with Breon, he won't say, hey, you don't have that active or that thing. But for me, we talk about originality. Originality is doing something that other people might not do. And it's an artistic choice. So I'm not saying I'm original. I'm saying I always wanted to be. You follow what I'm saying?
The strings?
Oh, am I going too long about this?
No, I said the strings. What kind of strings are?
Okay, well let me go. Let me finish the bass part.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Did I get off on a tangent?
No, you can tangent all you want. Go ahead.
So I was born in New York. So it's a passive bass. These pickups are Bartolini, and they're only built on this model, meaning that this bass sold in the stores only has this type of pickup. A Bartolini wines is for this, and it's a Babbitt's bass bridge, which I think is the greatest bridge innovation in music. It's again a neutral sounding thing, so if you replaced your bridge and put a Babbitt's on, it's not going to do anything that's going to identify your bass tone, but actually just simply allow your bass to function in a perfect economical way, and with the least bit of resistance. I don't like to work hard to play bass, and it's passive, and I'm done. And my wife designed this. Well, when we were together, they were saying, what kind of aesthetic do you want? And I'm kind of like Steve's bass in a way. I'll just take, I used to play, it's older. And if you look at any old pictures, I normally had a bass that was just like this color and this kind of wood, tabletop wood. all alder. You had an old palladium, and this is what it was, right?
Yep.
So I said, give me alder, and then give me alder or give me death. So Patrick Henry Berlin. So I said, this is, I needed something here, and Gabby, my wife, she's from Argentina. Habla español. Who speaks Spanish here? Anybody? Nobody? Bueno,
No capisco.
¿Cómo?
No español.
No español. So she's designed something and sent it to court, and they literally came up with this. So there you go. And it's just this lovely sounding. I mean, it's sweet. Melody, song.
What kind of strings you using?
These are, these are DRs, TNTs or DR, just nickel wound, normal 40, 60, 80, 100.
Why do you use DRs?
Because they're sweet sounding. And I like neutral sounding strings. Again, if I want more bright, I'll provide it. If I want more mid, I'll provide it. I like everything as neutral and as clean as possible. That's why I like Mark bass. My Mark bass.
Great answer.
They're neutral.
great
They
answer.
don't create. I don't like the so-called blah blah sound or this amp here, the famous such and such. If it's famous, I'd rather, unless I'm hired for the famous such and such sound, as an artist, perhaps I could come up with my own sound. I like neutral sounding stuff. Neutral means I have to work to create it.
Right.
Okay.
It's just a thought. That's all.
All right. So, like I said, I'm containing myself. I usually can't do that. I'm usually a jabbermouth. And in the comments,
I was just jabbering.
in the comments, they let me know that the guy behind the camera likes to hear himself talk. You know? And that ain't the case. I just be passionate about what's going on. But I'm going to let these panelists, if anybody, does anybody have a question?
Host first.
Got one.
Host first. Host first. I started playing six string some years ago. But I just went, because I was into position studies, and I just wanted to see how long I could stay in position before I'd have to shift. And I said, and I don't slap and pop. And when it first came out, I thought it was just kind of just overdone. There was too many people, some people were considering it that style. I said, the technique is your style, but I still, you play beautiful pizzicato. And I was wondering your take on playing pizzicato and your attraction or your
Lack of attraction.
Your attraction to the slap pop thump technique. Because I don't see you do that, but I see you do some beautiful linear stuff.
I slapped in 1977 or 78 and did a song with Bill Bruford called 5G. And that record did very well. And in a funny, odd, weird way, and forgive me if I sort of do this a little bit, I'm one of the sort of fathers of slap, which is ironic. In that, I mean, a lot of kids never heard this because Larry Graham wasn't, in those days, and Reg will validate this, I'm sure, we didn't notice bass players as icons.
That's true.
For the most part. How old are you, Don?
Me, 58.
Okay, so
We
we're
didn't even
sort
put
of...
them on the liner notes. We didn't know who they were.
Well, we really
Yeah.
didn't. I mean, we knew Stanley Clarke. So the fusion thing is when bass players began to become identifiable.
Right.
So essentially, when I started doing this, there wasn't an awareness of Doug Rauch or Larry Graham or, I mean, the great slappers of that era. There was about 3, 4 of them, really. So I can even play it. And the record sold like 6 figures, so everybody was slapping suddenly. And when I heard that, kind of going with my own particular philosophy of if you do this, I'll do that, and you do that, I'll do this, I stopped slapping. I stopped slapping. And it was a good choice for me now, because it's easy for me to grow as a musician. It's dead easy. You know why? If you do this, I won't. So in a sense, when I mean you, the collective you, what we bass players do, when people made a choice and it became a thing, I just went another way. And eventually I found a thing that was sort of my own when it was required, let's say like in this band. I do bass solos too, but then you do end up with phenomenal soloists, which I tend not to be anymore. Victor Wooten, I think, is our greatest, you know, that thing he does. That thing he does. I can't even, you know, I mean, the guy's like in another world. So, but the thing is that if he did this, and if, who are the other popular guys? There's so many of them. Marcus Miller. You know, I'll leave that to them, and I'll go off and play like, you know, these type of things. These are the flavors that I know most bass players don't do now. And I got good at it. So I eat that little thing. Am I off on a tangent again?
Yeah, for me.
So this just became because I'm a violinist, so I wanted to play notes.
But I found it real difficult to find another, because I was into the 4x4 and the kind of 4x4 and cement method of using my left hand, and I couldn't find a handle for my left hand when it came to popping. I didn't have to just.
It just wasn't your
just wasn't my thing.
Musical bent, and neither is it mine.
Yeah.
It might be some of you guys though.
Just one more thing. Could you play a little bit of what's that? I forgot.
Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier.
Oh my goodness! Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! That's like this. Thank you. I don't know if I remember it. Give me a second.
Okay.
Am I allowed to make mistakes on camera in front of the entire Detroit contingent?
Me and you too, viewers on this channel.
That's
Okay. Boom. Let me try it again. See if I can remember. You know what? You guys are dating yourselves. You're a bunch of old sparks here, man. Because if you remember that stuff, man, there ain't nobody 20 in this room.
all right. You don't need to be old to be no damn fool.
Including you, young fella.
Don,
Yes.
you had a question for him,
Yes.
or did Reggie cover?
I sure did. What was your first bass that you played?
I played a Hagstrom F400 because a kid in the grade above me played one in high school, junior high school. Seth Kimball, and he ended up being a bass player for Louis Prima and became, if he sees this, hi Seth, he became a mainstay in the Las Vegas music scene for a long, long time. Seth Kimball, a great neck kid. And he used to loan me his B15 amp because my parents wouldn't buy me one. I didn't have enough newspaper money to get one. So whenever I had a gig, Seth, I'd call him up, can I borrow an amp? He'd loan me his amp every darn time. So today we're like old men, and I call him up, or we'll send an email. I say, hey, listen, I have a gig. Can you loan me your B15? You know? And it was a Hagstrom. It was a Hagstrom bass. Force thing. The neck went like this. It did. I didn't know anything about truss rods, and the strings, like this was the G. You know, this was the D. This was the A. And it was horrific.
Wow.
And
Anybody else?
how much better? You're right.
Go ahead, Peter.
Okay, yeah, my question is, what message do you have for people like me who are trying to make it up the ladder?
I have a very distinct message for people like you trying to make it up the ladder, and the message is twofold. The better you play, the better you'll ascend the ladder. And that implies, in my thinking, that learning is not meant for work. What I mean is that the better you play and the better you practice, you will become more skilled to where you'll qualify as a musician to ascend the ladder. They'll hear about you. Oh, there's this guy Peter, I heard him. He sounds incredible. You know what's incredible about your playing? You play the right notes and you play in time. essentially that's the core of us. That's the essential core. I mean, feel. I think everybody plays with feel because we don't play. Right. You know, we play with feel. I think it's automatic among musicians because the idea is to enjoy.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that when I've read or said, well, somebody plays without feel, I don't buy it. They may play without experience, but not feel. So my thinking is do you read music?
No.
How old are you, young man?
I'm 30.
Okay, so you could learn, what's your birthday?
December 17th.
Okay, if you start to learn how to read today, here's two things that'll happen. One, you can still jam, you can still hang with the guys, you can still listen to records, you can still do your gigs, you can do everything. There's no compromise, not this much with your life as a bass player. What you've done is you've added a concept. Have you heard the expression that music is a language?
Yeah.
The language of music is notes. What's the language of English? Words. In its most basic form, sandwich has a very distinct meaning, and it's powerful. So the language of music isn't, in my opinion, what we necessarily hear or communicate, as it were, but we have to know the notes before we can communicate them. Before I can ask Reg to, let's go get a sandwich, I have to know what that word is and he has to understand it. So if you want to go up the ladder, I suggest with all of my heart that you practice bass, learning how to read music academically, with no thought to groove, with no thought to feel, with no thought to art, with no thought to creating a positive industry reaction. Just do it to do it, because you won't compromise this other side of it. But the better you play it, just to play. Just to play this means I have to know what the notes are on this instrument. And how I learn the notes in the most pure, perfect, and absolutely guaranteed way is reading music. Because there's nothing else. It says ba 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 ba. You've got to play ba 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 ba. That means these notes, your eyes, your mind, your hands, the literature, and your instrument sync up in an instantaneous, spontaneous firing. And the more you do that, where the first month or two is like, oh wait, hold on, what's that? Because your mind is tilting. It's nothing physically wrong. Your mind is tilting. What the hell is that funny looking dot on that piece of paper? But after a couple, 3 months of that, when you see it, it becomes, oh well, I've seen C, I've seen F. And the better you get at that is the better you're going to sync up your mind with academic harmony on this instrument while you're still listening to the records you love and imitating and getting into the self-taught playing. You know there's only 2 ways to learn how to play? I think I'm the only guy that I know of that ever figured this out. And I'm curious if you can maybe correct me if someone else has said this. There's only 2 ways to learn how to play. That's proven. Being self-taught, what does that mean? You're in charge of your own playing. You know, I can suggest do this and it'll help you. You could ignore me because you haven't paid me to development, what you listen to, who you agree with or don't. The other way is learning music, because it's the only way that we were taught, at least in Western society, for 2, 3, 4 centuries. Every musician that wasn't self-taught was taught musical notes. Every musician that was taught. And I invite people to think of any exceptions to the rule. So in that, there's only 2 ways. The best third way, I guess, is to combine the 2, which is what I'm suggesting for you. So if you want to get up the ladder, play better. You want to plug in for a second and play something?
Okay, and this is a perfect time for a plug for Bit Music Lessons. Go ahead, do what you know. I'm plugging Bit Music Lessons. That's a prestigious academy. BIT stands for Big Eye Teachers. Online and in person. And he ain't even listening to me.
Anything.
Yes, anything. Play anything. That's okay. You're entitled to make mistakes.
Okay.
That's what learning is. So if you make 100 mistakes, it's absolutely part of learning. Show me again. Do this. I'm gonna get you to play better in 3 minutes.
Okay.
Because every teacher of this mental mindset can do this. I'm not original to this.
Okay.
Play your line. That's okay.
Something like that.
Now I'm going to borrow your bass.
Okay.
I'm going to do a little quick imitation. Now, your bass needs a lot of work.
I've seen that.
Your neck, if you look down your neck,
Ooh, I can see
it looks
that
like a letter U. So it's simple. You could fix this in 10 minutes. I don't have the tool. But your playing left a lot of notes ringing. I'm exaggerating because I mean,
It's hard for him to mess up that bad, so he
so by doing that, do it with fingers. And I want you to make sure no other note rings. So I want to hear this. That's slow. And dampen so you don't go. You know, which you do. You got to control every note. This is the teaching part, the musical part. Slow it down. Now do that and watch, see what happens. Just articulate your playing with your finger.
Yeah.
Yes, try it, just articulate. And if you haven't, now you hear ringing? I do.
Yeah.
You hear ringing?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Okay.
Welcome to the wonderful world of practicing and academic. Now rest your thumb on the E string. Just rest it there.
Yes.
Park it there. Now
Okay.
play it again and don't lift that string up. Finger up. All right, I got a better idea. Park it on the A string. There you go.
Kill two
Now do
birds.
it.
Right.
Oh, you have to lift it, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, lift it up and then put it back after you play the note. That's fine. Perfect.
It's better.
Now stop right there. You still hear a taste of ringing, but isn't it far, far better?
Yeah, it's going away.
Everybody heard you because you're articulating the notes. It's like if I say to you, Peter, let's ride with Robin's promise from them. And I say, I'm sorry. Hey, afterward, Reggie's taking everybody out for a free lunch, so let's go and do this.
Yeah.
He didn't even blink. So let's go out and get a sandwich. You understood that a lot better.
Yes, I did.
That's the language that I'm referring to. The music is a language, you got to communicate the language.
Yeah.
That means you got to articulate its notes. That's all, it's that simple. It's really that simple. But the very first thing, is there a, oh, may I see your bass? Maybe I'll even do it. Can I do it on camera?
Yeah, and it's 12 o'clock, so we got.
Yeah, well, I'll hang. I mean, I'll tell the guy. You tell me when you want to. No, I don't have a wrench for this.
It's like a 3/16 or something, Allen wrench.
We're driving to Buffalo tonight, so
All right, so look.
we can hang a little bit. These guys have questions.
Yeah.
Did you notice what Peter did and how he articulated? You see how you articulated? Boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
Yeah.
And that's just in a couple of minutes. And then if you read music, you're required to articulate. That's what you improve with. Embrace it with love. Be patient. Nobody ever practice like this. Because a lot of guys do. Take that breath, go zen, and just sort of play the no, I made a mistake. If you make a mistake 5 times, is that bad?
No.
Great, it isn't. If you make the same mistake 50 times, is that bad?
No.
No. Who said that?
Nope.
Absolutely correct. Maybe you need 50 times. That's learning. If you can do 50, it'll eventually go down to 30. And then it'll eventually go down to 3. And that is learning. That's what it is. That's what you all can do if you wish. And that's especially for you. You want to go up the rung?
Thank you.
If you do this, by the time your birthday comes about, you won't even recognize yourself.
Thank you.
Very good.
All right, go ahead, man.
Being a guitar player, how was it playing with Alan Holdsworth?
Amazing.
I
Amazing.
still have to plug this.
Oh, I see. Because Alan was a guitarist who played as if he never heard a guitar player ever play guitar before.
Yeah.
He's a DNA freakination.
Yeah.
And it was simply, I mean, unbelievable to see or hear or be a part of what the mind that the man had. And there's a funny thing about genius. It kills people, I've noticed. People sometimes are genius but don't have the ability to pull themselves back from it in real life. I'm a beneficiary of therapy. I went to psychotherapy for some years because I was so out of, and I'm no genius, but I was so out of the reality of function due to the upbringing, family upbringing.
Sure.
And when I went to therapy, what it did is had success in it. It created a balance in me and gave me a chance to be just fairly well who I am, who you see. And at the same time, it didn't interfere with this. What happens with geniuses sometimes is if they haven't elected to go and improve themselves, their genius kills them or deviates them off the path of normalcy or interactive functionality with other human beings. It's so, I'm off a little bit on a tangent, but Alan talked himself in part into a great lifetime of depression. I know he talked himself into it, poor fellow. And he was one of my best friends.
Yeah.
So,
One of my favorites.
No doubt
one of my
about it.
favorites, man.
But I'm lately not into the Holsworthian approach or those type of guys. I mean, my thing these days is as an older musician. I love that.
Yeah.
I love 4/4.
Okay.
I'm not in a 7/8 anymore.
Right.
So anybody else?
I got two questions which actually aren't related. The first one is, watching you play last night, the one thing that struck me was how much you moved around position-wise on the neck. First thing I said to myself is, gee, if he had a 6-string, even if it was tuned, I go with a low B because I'm playing some urban gospel occasionally, and I've got to get down in the B flat and weeds and the A flat.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm saying even if he had a 6-string tuned to E to C or whatever, that actually it would be what, E to F, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, that it would be easier for you for soloing and stuff, because your soloing approach to me, and I was just wondering why you didn't make that decision. I know Jocko could get by with 4, the old line, but I was just wondering why you never. I know, maybe it was your contrarian thing. Well, John Patitucci's playing a 6 and Anthony Jackson's playing a 6. I don't want to do it. But I was just wondering why you didn't, because I was just amazed on your solos sometimes, that you started to run, at the 1st fret and you ended it at the 25th,
21st.
Right. Oh, that's right. You're like me. I got a 22 fretter here, so.
I do it because the instrument isn't a source of my musicality, to my way of thinking, but I am. So what I thought is that if I can stick into this little confined universe and find new ways to play it, one, the sound is identifiable because it's always repeated, but repeated in new ways. It's like adding 5 notes on a sax or adding, the Bosendorfer low piano, which most people never really use anyway. So I don't particularly like, it's not the contrarian element that causes me to stick to 4. It's my need or wish to be better on 4. And I still have that. Like I say, I'm an older guy, but I still have that desire to be better. It's a funny thing that I'd like to be better. And I'll play a gig and people are very kind and everything and really nice, but I'll know if I didn't play well. And I try not to get too depressed about it. I won't get into Holsworth, self-deprivation of life and living. I mean, this poor fellow, one time we played a gig and we're in they gave us an RV for a dressing room, and we're in the RV hanging out with some friends and stuff, and where's Alan? Can't find Alan. And there's a closet over here. And I don't know, I had a thought, so I go to the closet, I open the door. Alan's standing in the dark. He's standing in a closet in an RV with his face in the corner like this.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, because he felt to quote my old friend, I suck. He thought he sucked. And poor Alan, man. Alan did that to himself. My friend did that to himself. In other words, it was hard for him to say, wasn't a great night, I feel real bad about it, I'll do better tomorrow.
I know people like that. They will constantly telling themselves they suck because they find themselves hard to motivate themselves to get better, and that's their way of motivating themselves, and it's killing them.
And no matter how many people tell them, compliment them, they still
They still get like that. Yeah,
wow.
because the you know, we're so intimate. You know every note that you play better than any. He knows every everything that we do. We're intimate with.
Yeah.
I played last night, and true, it was an improvised, but it's the same literature. I mean, none of us used any words in English that are unfamiliar. We're all sharing the exact limited grammar. Follow what I mean by that? We didn't enter words, I don't know, whatever, blobbity bloobity. So that's a big word, by the way, blobbity bloobity.
Okay, so
And I had a second question too. That was a little bit.
let's get
unrelated.
somebody else and we come back to you.
Okay.
Maybe.
Other than Dennis, like, what would be some of the other drummers that you enjoy playing with?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's a gentleman that I'm playing with now named Bruce Buckingham. Bruce Cunningham. Oh my goodness, I went off of this. Bruce Guttridge. Bruce Guttridge. Forgive me, Bruce, if you see this. I'm spaced. I'm tired. Bruce Guttridge is a friend of Dennis's and is recorded my Jack Bruce record. This guy is as great as anybody. I've never played with a bad drummer. Bill was fun. I mean, I played with Vinny Colaiuta. He was great.
That's my dad.
I played with Tony Williams and those things. Cobham and I played quite a bit. Played a little bit with Simon Phillips. Played a little bit, but I'm really liking just Garibaldi. That's the kind of guys that I kind of like. They're like, I'm not
Nappy
into.
as hell.
Isn't he? He's an original. Mike Clark, the great Mike Clark. You know, I'm going to leave and remember 10 extra drummers that I forgot to mention to you. But Buddy Miles I played with a little bit.
Steve Gadd?
Keith Carlock recorded on my Joe Frazier CD. Who has that? You did?
Me.
Oh,
Yeah.
you did. Keith played on, I have a Joe Frazier round 3. Did you pick one up yesterday? He's the drummer on that.
I met him. Talk to him for about an hour about
Okay.
Tony Williams and all his influence. Just fascinating guy.
Yes, he
Great
is.
player.
And he's one of the best drummers. Keith Carlock, and I mean, a monster.
Steve
Yes.
Gadd?
Yes.
Steve who?
Steve Gadd?
I played a little bit with Gadd and a little bit with Murata in the old
Okay.
days.
Murata.
Jerry Murata.
Jerry.
Played with oh come on, he's the guy who said he played with Ringo, the Beatles. Bernard
Isn't it-
Purdy.
Bernard Purdy.
Bernard.
Yeah.
Played with Purdy.
Great
Oh,
drummer.
yeah.
Played with
Purdy
oh
Shuffle.
gosh, the list is just getting on and on.
Carroll.
Yeah.
Who?
Jeff Picaro.
Say again?
Jeff Picaro.
I played with
Oh, Jeff,
Picaro.
wow.
I played with Picaro. You follow?
Yeah.
I would say all the names that you know, that
Yeah.
we all know. I've been lucky. I played with a lot of these guys.
Played with Neil Peart too. Didn't you?
I played with Neil Peart.
Oh, Neil Peart.
no way.
Man.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
goodness.
You know, I did a lot.
guys are
I did a little bit with Neil. I know the Rush guys. So I don't know. My taste really. I'm a real chameleon. I mean, I'm a hard rocker. I'm a fusion guy. I'm a deep R&B bass player when called to be. I mean, really deep. I just don't do it with thumb. But I have a thing, and I can pop. Normally, I'm not thought of for that because I do this. So they don't really think I want to, but I can. I mean, I can't even begin. I'm a funky guy. Yes, I am. I don't know all the guys.
All right, anybody else got any questions for this one?
I've got one.
Well, let me see if anybody else has any. What up, T? That's you?
Yes,
I got my glasses on.
You ever use a
Oh,
pick?
there. What up, T?
You ever use a pick?
No.
All right, let's before everybody have multiple questions. I want to, cause we gotta go. I know we have fun and stuff, but I got a clock that I gotta get him back. So, anybody else have any questions from way back in the punishment section?
The overflow.
Yeah.
Guys,
I got one quick question.
No, anybody else?
I got one quick one. What would be your take on the state of jazz fusion music now?
I think it's apt. I'm not really into jazz fusion like I used to be. I'd rather be a rocker. I'd like to define my boundary line far more distinctly. Jazz fusion is a kind of an amalgamation. I'm not particularly into that much as where I'm at now. I'd rather be a rocker, a soul bassist, an R&B guy, a funker, you know. I'd rather define the category and be that. I think jazz fusion is fairly well ebbed. I would say.
It became a bad word for a long time.
Did it? Yeah.
All right, so look, like I really didn't want to keep you. Yes, I did, but I'm not allowed to because these guys they want to know, man. You know,
Ask.
You up there with the. You up there, man, with the best of them. You know what I'm saying? And your knowledge as an educator also is a very well appreciated, man. And I'm gonna let this young man with the gray hair.
This isn't that question about the education thing.
Yeah.
And any question you have, nothing's off the table.
Ralph Armstrong does a great thing in Detroit, and he does some stuff with the kids at the high school level and stuff like that. And I go to a church where I've got where it's mostly white people, except Peter, with a few others, but it's not real mixed. I mean, it's a little bit mixed. And white suburban kids today are growing up listening to horrible music. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, I would love to be able to take those kids to something like last night. Like, we have a 14-year-old drummer in our church. He's really developed as a drummer, but he's listening to the wrong stuff, and he doesn't really know how. It's really hard for him always to get the groove thing down. And I think it's because he's listening to, the music he's listening to isn't music that promotes playing good, solid grooves. And I would love to have taken him to something like that last night. Is there anything out there where you guys are pursuing stuff like that band last night? By the way, I hope you guys record together. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Where you go out and play a daytime gig at a place where you don't have to be over 18. So you could take a 14-year-old, 15-year-old kid there to hear that, because I think that's the one thing that these kids, I think if you see this stuff played, it's different than hearing it. When you see people perform this stuff, especially for a drummer, I think, especially if a drummer got to see.
What's your question?
Are you guys looking at doing stuff like that, looking for gigs like that?
No, we hadn't really thought about that. It's a very good point. I think it's a very, very good point. A lot of young people, like our gig was, all you old farts, it's like, wasn't any kids that came except for Pete. Oh, you didn't make it, Not talking to you.
I'm not that old.
I tried to get him to come.
I'm not that old.
So
I'm not that old. I'm not that old.
You look young, pretty young.
I'm 38.
38. You're a youngster.
I will say I think it's different in the African American community because
so I like the idea of possibly relating this music to younger players if they're interested in. I doubt that with my little efforts that'll ever make a difference. I think that the industry has become what it's become, and it's just a fact of life. So that's why I'm saying to you, if you want to go up the ladder, let's say, the last thing you want to do is go up the ladder in the specific idea of going up in this era, because this era is going to change. Every era changes, but in every era in music, you'll notice they all have the same G major triad in there somewhere. You go back to 1920s, small group Louis Armstrong, 30s, big Beiderbecke, the jazz groups, 40s, big band, 50s, old-time rock and roll, the blues kind of artists, 60s, Beatles and rock, 70s, disco, 80s, what was it, hair bands, 90s, what was it called?
Grunge.
2000s, whatever it is. Every single idiom of music, with the exception of possibly the odd, interesting artist like a Zappa or a Holdsworth or somebody, just about everybody had a G major chord in there somewhere, and an F chord and an E chord. So what that means is that the tying and identifying element of music has always been the harmony. It's just they do it this way in 1940 and they do it this way in 2019. So that's why learning is different than that. So I'm not sure I could introduce this to kids who would, unless their parents would make them come.
And me and you, we grew up on the same thing.
Yeah.
And for me, it's always been the quality of the music. But these kids today, the visual element, since MTV, the visual element sells more than the audio element. So that's why these songs suck.
Yeah, that's so
There's no interest in making the songs.
right.
All right, folks. So,
Can I finish that before we go? It's an industry, and I have no complaint with an industry in the sense that if there's a sale of music, I have no problem in the fact. I feel like we're talking like did you play as a kid, Reg?
Yeah.
Okay, and didn't your father say, "What's this noise"?
And my house was real strange. My house was real strange because they were glad that I got off the street because we lived in the projects.
Okay.
But
Okay.
my playing and practicing was considered a nuisance. I had to wait till everybody got out of the house.
Got out of the house. You see, but sort of the general consensus is that kids, our generation, when we played
What is
our
that noise?
rock records and got our long hair or whatever, our parents would say, "What's that noise?
Yeah.
What's this noise? This isn't music." In a sense, we've turned into our folks by saying the music today, "Oh, what's this shit?" And it's ironic in that, and I got conscious of that. So for me again, saying, I always thought, well, it isn't what I came from, but it is what it is. So I've never really had any truck whatsoever with anything that people choose to listen to. I'll just change the channel for myself. But I will add, as with somebody like Peter, I have a great deal of a commitment to learning and being taught. And that's why for the most part, most teachers, and this is where I'm not appreciated by a lot of guys, I don't feel a lot of teachers are capable of teaching if they don't teach music, and that's what we were talking about with Ivan, because he teaches his kids. Mary has them and teaches them notes, but a lot of teachers teaching in terms of feel and slap and art and groove, and these things are performance elements and not good academic elements. So that's where I have a big mouth, and that's where I tend to make the most trouble, because I won't back down from the principles that I believe. In fact, I know, and you witnessed it.
Right. Yeah.
hold up a second. What is that noise?
What is that? Somebody's phone's going.
What is that?
Your headphones?
Is it mine?
Some small speakers.
I'm so sorry.
It's been
Hey,
going on for like.
academically, for like somebody that needs to start
I've been
learning
hearing it for like
where do you
the
tell
last 20
somebody to
minutes.
start?
You need a teacher who has a planned program to begin simple reading and to progress from there. It's the sequence that's really the way to go. So I have such a program because I wrote it out for that, but most people don't buy it because they have to practice notes, and most people won't buy it. It's right there. It's like, it'll change your whole thing. But you have to take that and you go with Ivan and let him guide you through the notes. You need a teacher
Tell
with
us
this.
where
If you
that
don't read,
program's
sure.
where's
And the
that
stuff
program
begins
of it?
simple. It begins E, F, and G. And you got A2s reading like this till you're bored out of your mind. All right, I know what an F and a G and an E look like. Now do it on A, B, C. Now, are you better artists? No way. But I'll tell you what you have done is you've articulated the eye, the mind, the hand, the music, and the instrument. This is as meaningful as
Exactly.
True.
it's just a simpler form of it.
Okay. You do teach, right?
On and off. I have I think it's Jeff Berlin Basseducation.com, and they have lessons, and there's a beginning. It's 5 packages, 2 through 5 are for readers, but if you're a non-reader, package 1. It is a sequence. It's a complete package. It probably give you weeks, maybe months of reading. And the thing is you do about 20 minutes a day, and then you take a break. Never suffer under practicing a mental exertion into learning music. If you do, you'll hate it and you'll quit. So as soon as your eyes start to do this, stop, get a coffee, take it easy, maybe go back. If you make a mistake, oh gosh, let me slow down. Okay, there it is. Go back and fix your mistakes. It's the worst part of this is the first two months. If you get through 2 months, you're home free.
So
Demystified.
what's the name of the page again?
I think it's Jeff Berlin Basseducation.com, and if anyone wants to learn how to read, they should get package 1. Get it. You can download it. You can have the music is there. Go to Ivan and guide the guys through it. And do a little bit a day. It's a lot of music I've written out. I didn't want to shortchange anybody. And I'll guarantee you, because of my violin background, it's an academic journey. It goes from here to here to here to here to here. It's all in C, no sharps, flats, because we're breaking ice here. And it is not artistic. It is not artistic. There's no groove. There's no gig. There's no concert. It is unrelated. It is learning music for its own sake, improving your bass playing for its own sake. And that, to me, is the greatest goal we can do, because we can still listen to our records and play with everybody we want. There's no compromise.
Right.
Okay. Do you have any other, like if we wanted to follow you, per se, you got social medias, do you have your own website and all that kind of good stuff?
Not really.
Okay. Jeff Berlin on Facebook, I know that's for
Facebook
sure.
on there.
Jeff Berlin on, what's your Instagram name? You ain't been on there in a minute, have you? Forgot your password? Cause, all right, so it's like, but you don't have a website yet?
No, I don't. Well, JeffBerlinBassEducation.com, I think, is what it is. It was either Jeff Berlin Bass Education or JeffBerlinMusicGroup.com.
We'll figure it out. I'll do some research when I post this in 2025.
When I'm 55 years
Okay. So look, man, we ain't want to keep you, folks. If y'all got some more questions, I want to close this out and then take a picture with the man and as a group picture, if we can all fit. I don't know if we
can get that. We can more.
Somebody gonna have to do. We're gonna have to do a bleacher effect. Right. But like I said, I didn't want to keep you, man. But I do want to know how we can keep up with you. We can keep up with you on Facebook. We can find your other stuff.
I post on Facebook, and there's a bass site called The Bass Guitar, which I post on.
Okay. Now the last thing before you play us out, is there anything?
You know how that go.
I thought that was about to be a missing child alert or something. So I'm about to record that. If we can help, look. Right. Is there? So before I let you go, is there anything that you'd like to say in closing before you play us out?
Pete. I want to do something funny. Can you hand me Peter that piece of music? You guys know Victor Borge?
Oh yes.
Tell me if you remember this thing. I got to do just one sheet. All right. Give me 1 second. Now watch this. Here, hold this music. Just hold it up in front of me.
Oh
no. Nothing I want to say that's except to thank everybody. And people have been very forthcoming. When I go online, I'm considered a controversial guy because I have a stand about education that involves, I would say, the world community of educators, and tend to support anybody that teaches notes and music, as we were talking about, as Ivan does, because notes and music is the source of learning how to play our instrument without being self-taught. It's the language of music. So I'm controversial in that I don't agree that a lot of well-known and established schools are really good for people. I don't agree that a lot of well-known and established bass teachers are helping people, whereas I do feel that these people are caring and loving. But I think that caring and loving, it doesn't make us better musicians. So in that regard, I have, and it isn't that the odd guy is upstairs teaching in a store somewhere with a funny little method. I'm not trying to pick on people, but rather communicate that the educational system that is in place in this world at this particular time, in my opinion, in bass, is flawed beyond words. And Musically, these guys are phenomenal players. Everybody plays beautifully. Everybody has an intention of being, artistic and prolific and beautiful and honest. But as teachers, I think there's a great deal of flaw going on. So I report this because I'm one of the maybe the only guy. Look this up, because here's where I get into dangerous area. I'm not trying to brag, but I'm not sure there's anybody like me from the academic side of things in bass. Where a guy who is a decade or more steeped in deep classical training and then decades of deep jazz training. I've been taught by the greatest music teachers in the world, and I did it for years and years and years and years. So it's not an accident that I arrived here. I'm just a knucklehead guy from Long Island, and if it wasn't for my background, I might not have enjoyed the rep and having the chance to hang with you guys. So in that I'm unique, I have a kind of a unique overview. And this is where it gets tenuous. Is he bragging? Is he an ego guy? No. I have a view of things, and a new bassist as Peter benefiting just shows that we all learn the same way. The differences might be you learn a little faster than this gentleman, he learns a little faster than me, I learn a little slower than him. You relate a little differently here, but the literature, every man, Jack, one of us here, can go online or write eloquent comments. I know I'm going on, but I want to do this. And we all learn how to read and write the same way. Even you in Uganda. You learned the same method that we learned the same method that you did, which is you begin with simple grammar and maybe mom and dad. What was it? Spot? And
Dick and Jane.
Dick and Jane, See how common this is, and whoever you had that was, the simplest forms. We learned academically, and we can all write emotionally. That should be a great clue to everybody that what you practice is not what you play, because that's where bass players make the mistake. If I practice this, how do I use it? Scales are not meant to be used on gigs. Right. It's not meant to be used in music. You might find a way, but it's not meant for that. Right. So I'm a controversial guy, but for my overview, I'll choose to earn the wrath or the ire of people who might take offense in this day and age, because we have a political kind of function in bass playing. You can't say things about standardized beliefs in the function or going on in bass without making people a little bit riled up about it. Have you guys caught any of that online at all?
Yeah, but we've been luckily we avoided that whole thing through this entire lesson. We avoided all that because I got some stuff I would love to bring up, but but I'm not gonna bring it up. So
you can bring up anything.
We'll wait till we finish this this closeout. Talk about some controversy as we pack up this stuff.
I love it.
Okay, because I could tell you like, bring it on. I'm like, no, we avoiding that.
This is Chicago. This is Detroit. You have Kronk here, so.
The truth is, I actually agree with a lot of the stuff you say. I mean, it makes sense. And people need to listen and stop making interpretations of what somebody's saying. Listen to what they actually said, even though sometimes they might not get the words right or that you understand. Just listen. That's all I'm saying. So you wanted to continue your
I'm done. It's fairly well. I did it for your new viewers of me, or for you guys if you haven't been privy to these things. I tread a difficult line. Yeah. But I'm not afraid to tread it, and I do it for the good of everybody. I do it for the good of you. And the reason is because there's often a great weight of people inviting you and inspiring you to learn in a way that I feel might not give you what you want. Just due to the overview of how bass is taught. Not played, not art. You notice later, I said to Reggie, the art is the art. It's what it is. But the teaching is a very specific thing. And that's why I say what I say, because I don't have too many, if almost anybody, who publicly, now I do more and more, but people were furious about it. So the more angry they got about it, they never explained why they were angry. Just they're mad at me for saying these things. That bass education is flawed. The group, not the individual. The group concept of bass education is flawed. So I took umbrage to it, and I decided to address it. And anybody can ask me, and anybody can challenge me, and I'm very open to it, because people may have to make their own decisions. That's it. I said my piece. Did I offend anybody?
No.
Okay, give me another chance. No.
All right, so look, man, I want to thank you for coming to the basement. That's BASSMINT, and everybody's engaged and enjoyed it and all that kind of good stuff. But and I love to keep you, but
Yeah, I gotta run.
yeah, you gotta go. So could you just play us a little something out in closing?
Sure, let me change your world. What do I do? What do I do?
Change your world. That's my request.
Wow.
Jeff Berlin. Jeff Berlin.
I got it right.
That was good. That was good.
I forgot that too, you see?